What is up, guys? Thanks for joining us today. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this prediction video. For this one, we will be focusing on the last major club game taking place this weekend on the 1st of June, as it will be the UEFA Champions League Final and it will be taking place at Wembley Stadium in England. The two sides competing, Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund. Now, the last time that Real Madrid and Borussia Dortmund went head to head was actually on the 6th of December in 2017, and it was at Real Madrid's Estadio Santiago Bernabeu. It was a match where both teams had a lot to prove, being in the same group, and both teams were trying to qualify, but Real Madrid were trying to get through as group leaders, while Dortmund were trying to salvage something and at least qualify for the Europa League at the time. It was, however, the home side, Real Madrid, who opened the scoring in the 8th minute. Cristiano Ronaldo takes a shot, the ball gets a slight deflection off one of his teammates and ends up at the feet of Mayoral, who is just able to force it over the line past the keeper. Real Madrid then doubled their lead in the 12th minute thanks to their star striker, Mr. Champions League himself, Cristiano Ronaldo, with one of those fantastic curling drives, leaving the keeper absolutely no chance and leaving the fans in euphoria. Dortmund did eventually hit back minutes before halftime when in the 43rd minute, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was able to hit the ball past the keeper. And then Dortmund drew level a few minutes after halftime when once again Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was able to force the ball past the keeper after taking an initial shot that is saved, and then he just manages to lob the ball over the keeper the second time around. But Real Madrid were not going to be undone on their own home patch, and in the 81st minute, Lucas Vazquez managing to get the winner for Los Blancos courtesy of a gorgeous volley that leaves goalkeeper Burki absolutely no chance. The final score on the day, Real Madrid 3, Borussia Dortmund 2. For Dortmund, it was a subpar season, which is something that Dortmund fans have kind of had to get used to in the last few seasons. But for Real Madrid, this was just another notch on their belt en route to claiming yet another Champions League title. We start off our team analysis with Borussia Dortmund here. Now, the last 5 fixtures for Dortmund have ended in 4 wins and 1 loss. Their last match was a 4-0 win against Darmstadt to cap off their German Bundesliga season. In these last 5 fixtures, Dortmund have scored 11 goals and conceded 4, keeping 3 clean sheets in the process. Obviously, I think the standout player for Dortmund this season has been Niklas Füllkrug. With his 15 goals and 10 assists, Füllkrug was never brought in to the Signal Iduna Park to get goals. He was supposed to be an attacking midfielder who just gave them a bit of creativity up front. But injuries to Sebastian Haller and Daniel Malen, and both of those strikers struggling with form, meant that Füllkrug had to adapt to a new role. And adapt he did. Füllkrug actually scored the crucial goal against PSG that saw Dortmund come through the semi-final and actually get their ticket to the final. Next up, I want to talk Mats Hummels with 4 goals and 1 assist. Mats Hummels has been the defensive rock for Borussia Dortmund. He left Signal Iduna Park and then went to Bayern Munich and just returned. And it looks as if he's never left. He's so comfortable in a Dortmund shirt. He provides them with so much at the back, just being that defensive rock that they need, but also being that leader that I think Dortmund desperately needed in the last few seasons. And finally, I want to talk Julian Brandt with 10 goals and 16 assists. Julian Brandt had to then fill the role that Füllkrug left vacant when he had to be shifted up front. What I like about Julian Brandt is he's a very flexible player. He's able to play in that number 10 role as a central playmaker, or on either wing as either a midfielder on those wings or as a winger higher up front. But Julian Brandt can get you goals and he can get you assists if he is not properly dealt with. Next up, we look at Real Madrid. Now, the last 5 fixtures for Los Blancos have ended in 3 wins and 2 draws. Their last match was a 0-0 draw against Real Betis to cap off their La Liga campaign. Real Madrid obviously going through La Liga and being crowned champions of Spain. In their last 5 matches, Los Blancos have scored 15 goals and conceded 5, also keeping 3 clean sheets in the process. The first player I need to talk about when it comes to Real Madrid has got to be Jude Bellingham. 23 goals, 12 assists. Jude Bellingham was just named La Liga's MVP of the season, meaning that he was essentially the best player in Spain, and I don't think there's anybody that can question his credentials after what he's done for Real Madrid. Signed as an attacking midfielder, he's gotten so many goals to the point where he's actually Real Madrid's top goal scorer, and I think he deserves all of the praise that he is getting right now. Next up, I want to talk Vinicius Jr. with 23 goals and 11 assists. It seems like the only players who are able to compete with Vinicius Jr. are his teammates right now. And I think what it's done is it's created a situation where there's kind of like this healthy competition between them. Vinicius Jr. brings you so much up front. He is so creative, flexible enough to play on either wing or down the middle, so quick and difficult to deal with, a very tricky player. When you commit to tackling him, he can draw a foul, and he is very, very intelligent about how he uses his runs and about where he places himself on the pitch, either finding space for himself or freeing up space for his teammates. And finally, I want to talk Toni Kroos with 1 goal and 9 assists. You know Toni Kroos is going to be the player pulling the strings for Real Madrid from deeper in midfield. He knows exactly how to dictate the tempo of a game, either picking up the pace, getting his team moving quicker, which works to their advantage with the amount of pace they have up front, or slowing the game down and just frustrating the opposition by keeping the ball and therefore drawing in fouls that they can then punish the opposition team from. Okay, on to the head-to-head and the S3M2 verdict. Now, according to Google, Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid have played 4 times in recent years, with Dortmund winning none of those matches, the two teams sharing 2 draws between them, and then Real Madrid coming out on top twice. In these last 4 fixtures, Real Madrid have scored 10 goals while Dortmund have scored just 7. I know I have been stressing the fact that these are stats provided by Google, but that is simply because I know that Dortmund and Real Madrid have met before this as well. I looked at these stats and I was a little bit concerned because I do remember Real Madrid losing to Borussia Dortmund in the 2013 Champions League semi-finals. In that match, Robert Lewandowski scored 4 goals to see the German outfit win 4-1 against the Spanish side. But curiously, it seems as though Google only goes back to a certain point. So I would say, if you do go a little deeper, I think the 5th fixture that these sides would have played in recent memory was actually still a Dortmund win, where Borussia Dortmund won 2-0. I think it's just curious that Google doesn't tell you that, and I actually had to do a bit of digging myself into Transfer Market, who I feel is a lot more of a more reliable resource as opposed to Google, but they're not as aesthetically pleasing as Google's little head-to-head statistic. I think in terms of this fixture in particular, this is a very emotional game for both of these sides. For Real Madrid, Toni Kroos has just announced that he will be retiring from international football, and this will be his final match for Real Madrid. So for him, this is kind of like his swan song. But the same could be said for Borussia Dortmund, because they were notified earlier this season that Marco Reus would be considering hanging up his boots as well. And I know for Toni Kroos, he's won a lot of trophies at Real Madrid thanks to his incredible ability of dictating the play, being able to play long passes, just being able to orchestrate things. But for Marco Reus, despite all of the grit and determination and just that resilience to stay at Signal Iduna Park when bigger teams came calling like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Barcelona, Reus chose to stay. And unfortunately, individually, he was never rewarded for that at Dortmund. He never really won any accolades with them. You couple that with the fact that he could have won the World Cup with Germany in 2014, But shortly before the tournament started, he injured himself and was not able to feature. And he had to watch one of his close teammates and close friends, Mario Götze, score the winning goal as Germany lifted the trophy in Brazil. It kind of paints a little bit of a sad picture for Marco Reus. I think in terms of neutrals, I think a lot of people, a lot of fans, and a lot of teams and players as well will be hoping that Dortmund win this one, just so that Marco Reus can say he's won something big for all of his loyalty to Borussia Dortmund. Carlo Ancelotti has a bit of a problem, especially in his goalkeeping department. Lunin has been fantastic this season. Real Madrid have won La Liga. They've gotten this far because of some fantastic saves that Lunin has managed to pull off. But he only got that opportunity because Thibaut Courtois was injured. And now Courtois is back. So does Ancelotti choose to stick with Lunin, who has proven his credentials this season? Or do you go back to Thibaut Courtois, who you all know is a quality goalkeeper, who's capable of fantastic moments himself? For Borussia Dortmund, it's more a case of how do they line up front. You've got Niklas Füllkrug, who's going out there getting goals, getting the job done. But now Sebastian Haller can start coming back in, and Daniel Malen also has started to feature again. And we know Malen was brought in as that number 9. So do you now shift them around? I think particularly for Dortmund, this was a very difficult Champions League season. Dortmund had to firstly deal with being in Group F, which was the group of death alongside AC Milan, PSG, and then Newcastle from England. They made it through the group, and then they had to deal with PSG again in the semi-finals, which was a match where Dortmund came in as major underdogs, which they do quite often, and they managed to pull it off to, I think, pretty much everybody's surprise. For Real Madrid, at this point, every single Champions League match that Real Madrid they go into it as favorites. I think even in their quarter-final match against Manchester City, it still looked as though Real Madrid were the stronger side. They had just a little bit more in the tank than Manchester City did. And then when it came to the semi-final against Bayern Munich, I think the only people who genuinely thought that Bayern had any hope of going through had to be the most determined and most loyal Bayern Munich supporters. Real Madrid right now are just performing on an entirely different level. When it comes to their front three of Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. and Jude Bellingham, the three are so good at what they do that they're interchangeable. You can see the three of them rotating at any given point, and that causes major issues for defenders, because you might tell your centre-backs to mark Jude Bellingham, and then midway through the first half you see Jude Bellingham is now playing on a wing and Vinicius Jr. is playing centrally. Now, does your centre-back stay central and now pick up Vinicius Jr., or does he follow Jude Bellingham and then get pulled out of position? Interestingly, I think this is actually a tactic that Borussia Dortmund could employ against Real Madrid. Knowing that Füllkrug was employed as that number 10 initially, with Julian Brandt out on a wing and then Daniel Malen up front, and now knowing that Füllkrug can play that number 9 role, Malen can play out wide, and Julian Brandt can play in the number 10 role, the three of them too are very interchangeable. And I think that this is something that Dortmund can use to their advantage. Will Real Madrid employ a man-marking style to try and isolate Füllkrug? Because right now, it seems like when you do that against Dortmund, they do struggle a little to get their goals from other areas. They do find the chances, but they're struggling to put them away. And I think this is really something that Dortmund can perhaps use to their advantage by rotating Füllkrug around that front third just occasionally every 10 or 15 minutes. I think Mats Hummels has a very important role to play here. Crucially, Mats Hummels and Marco Reus are the only two players left at Borussia Dortmund from that 2013 squad that was able to beat Real Madrid. And I think that shows longevity, but it also shows loyalty from these players. Fair enough, Hummels left and went to Bayern Munich, but he did come back home to Borussia Dortmund. And I think Dortmund fans were only too happy to have him back. For my final scoreline here, I must say that I do think Real Madrid have too much up front. I think Real Madrid end up scoring at least 2 goals. So I'm going to slot it in with Real Madrid scoring 3. I do, however, think that Dortmund gets something back, but I don't think it's enough. I think Dortmund get just 1 back. So I think for me, my final scoreline here will be Borussia Dortmund 1, Real Madrid 3. I think Dortmund come into it as major underdogs, and they have proven that this underdog status is something that they enjoy having. They love upsetting the bigger teams, they love taking the match to the bigger teams. Hi, thank you for making it to the end of this video. We really appreciate the watch time and the fact that you took some time out of your day to spend it with us talking about the sport that we all love. If you enjoyed the content, why not, drop a like down below or comment in the comment section. Maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. And I mean, while you are here right now, have a look at some of our old videos too. They should be appearing on the screen right now, along with that subscribe button. So you know exactly what to do. Thank you so much. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And have a great day out there. And we hope to see you again very, very soon. Thanks. Stay safe.